everyone. We're back again with another episode on Natural Archetypes. And hey, Shikha, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
Good, good, good. Excited for this episode. And so, just a quick introduction. My name is Chand. I am an internal medicine doctor turning healer, spiritual healer, astrologer, somatic practitioner, etc., etc. And I'm here with Shikha, who is
I thought you were just gonna say it for me. Um, I'm an evolutionary astrologer. Yeah, pretty new to the whole thing, but learning very fast. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And so we are, and this is a series of us exploring the basics of evolutionary astrology. And at this point, we are talking about the natural archetypes. And so this particular episode is going to be about Cancer and Capricorn. Uh, by the way, we should also do a quick plug-in about somatic astrology at this point, which is essentially the merger of somatic work and astrology. It's something that we are working on, and this is an exploration. And this series is an exploration is a part of that process of somatic astrology.
yeah. We've conceived somatic astrology as the physiological and psychological paths to individuation, two different paths but very interrelated. And the way our relationship with astrology is evolving, is developing, is using astrology as a way to surrender to the cosmos, but in a very embodied and grounded way, and hence somatic astrology.
No, thank you for that. And I think I should also share our beautiful artwork that you have.
I
And
do think I'm getting progressively lazier with the artwork with each episode.
I don't notice it at all, but I'll take your word for it. And I think that's fine to, manage your energy the way you need to. All right, cool. So this is in Cancer and Capricorn, and I think we're now on the fourth episode, right? Because we're moving from one, two, three into the second quadrant. And so, just to catch people up, we have finished with the first quadrant. So we're dividing the zodiac wheel, the cycle of the evolution of the soul into four quadrants. Each quadrant having three houses, and we finished with one, two, three, and now we're finally moving out into the fourth house. Uh, And so, Shika, I guess just before people, just to like catch us, what phase of the evolution of the soul are we in right now?
Sorry, can you repeat that? What
What
phase of
f-
the?
what phase of the evolution of the soul's journey, I guess we should say,
Oh,
right?
okay. Yeah,
Are we in
yeah.
right?
Yeah, the soul's journey starts with Aries, which is the spark of self discovery. It's instinct based, very impulsive. There's not a lot of forethought. It's just acting and burning karma as you go along. And then we move into Taurus, where the soul has gained some experience, discovered its values, and is really rooted in them. Does not want to be impulsive at all. That's how Taurus is like very different from Aries. And then the soul moves into, you know, Gemini, which is the first time the soul begins to engage with duality, with the world, labeling things, navigating their immediate environments, both internal and external, just finding their way in the world. Basically, that's Gemini. And then we are moving into the next quadrant, which is a self-application quadrant. From Aries to Virgo is a self quadrant, self half the hemisphere. From Libra to Pisces is the other half, literally the other, like our relationships with other people. So with Cancer, the soul is now learning about inner security because as Aries, it has discovered the world. As Taurus has found its values. As Gemini, the soul has started engaging with its environment. Now it's time for the soul to find security within itself before it goes further into its journey, because inner security is going to be really important. And this axis itself, the Cancer Capricorn axis, is a really important axis, I think, after Aries Libra, because these are the four most sensitive houses, the ascendant, descendant, the IC, and the MC, which is Cancer and Capricorn, respectively.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, I appreciate you like saying that. the importance of this particular axis, and how we started from the Aries and Libra axis, and finally, like like they say, the 1, 4, 7, and 10 houses are going to be like important houses. Any planets there are also going to have a big importance. So I guess without any further ado, maybe we should just start.
Yeah, something else to add, Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn. Now we've come full circle for the cardinal signs. These are all cardinal signs. Aries is cardinal fire, Cancer is cardinal water, Libra is cardinal air, and Capricorn is cardinal earth. Different elements, but their job is the same. Like in their own element, these are the signs that initiate, that start, that is energy that begins to do something, as opposed to like fixed signs where the energy holds, sustains, and mutable signs where the energy begins to transform. So these are all cardinal signs. They're known to be very initiatory that way.
No, yeah, thank you for that. I think that's a good point. And the way that I have been able to remember this is that they are the first in the each quadrant, first house in each quadrant. So this is starting a separate part of the journey. So it's starting here, and then it's gonna fix, and then it's gonna be again start changing, and so mutable to move back into getting fixed into a different phase and stuff like that. So yeah, okay, cool. Thanks for that. Let's, I guess, start with Cancer. So I'll let you take it off. How would you, I guess, I like this expression, this summary of the natural expression, but lead us through this.
Yes, Cancer represents our home, our family, our ancestry, and that's why it's a very emotional archetype. It's both an internal and external home. And the way Cancer, the archetype manifests, is the soul is just feeling itself into being. It is highly fluctuating, like the moon, because the moon is like very quick moving. And the tides with the moon, they're like coming in and going back. That is a fluctuation which reflects the soul's emotional states. Like we're feeling something one moment and something else the other moment. So it's not fixed. It doesn't have like fixed emotions. It's always fluctuating, and hence it is feeling itself into being. And the objective of this archetype is to always look for security. It's like consciously looking for security for the ego self, which is why Cancer's sense of security can also be very externalized. And that's something we'll cover in the shadow expression. But it's very consciously looking for emotional safety. Am I safe? Am I safe here? Am I safe with these people? Am I safe in this home? That is what the moon is about, like looking for emotional safety, which is why together with the sun, the moon actually represents our ego self. And like the moon, Cancer is also like very rhythmic, very cyclical. We feel certain emotions in certain seasons, with certain memories bring back certain feelings. Like we feel a way when it rains, we feel a way when it's dark, it's winter. It's a little depressive. That is Cancer, and it's also um, the objective of this archetype is to nurture itself and others both. So it's very nurturing and mothering of itself and others. There is a deep connection to like ancestral memory, to land, to where people come from. And these things cannot really be like put into words. This is not something to be articulated, this archetype. It's actually just to be felt. And it's also really sensitive and empathetic, of course, because it's always looking for safety within itself and nurturing others as well. So this is Cancer, Moon, and the fourth house. It's a really important axis, and like I think all of evolutionary astrology actually comes down to this single archetype, which is finding inner security. That's my view. Every other archetype, I think the job is for the ego to find inner security, because all the archetypes can be very controlling, including Cancer. We'll figure that again in the shadow expression. But this is a single most important quality to develop: inner security, to not feel the need to control others, to feel safe in our bodies. It's also what somatic astrology is about, to find safety in our bodies. So, really important archetype. As the I see in your chart, it represents the bottommost part of the chart, is the lowest point. which means this is the archetype of our inner self, our private self, which is why it's about family. It's not something that we go very public with usually. So this is Cancer.
Wow. No, thank you for that. I a lot of what you're saying obviously has been resonating, because even when I was reading Ari Moshe's little excerpt, or like the chapter on the archetype, this axis, it is again like like learning about the world through the emotional body and why it's so fluctuating, and it represents part of the ego, which is why it keeps changing. And again, here I guess the way popular definition of ego will be different from what the definition of ego here is, because it is how we're experiencing the world, like which part of us is feeling, is how it will create our experience. How we're feeling will create our experience, and how we'll interact with the world will be dependent on that. The other thing which I also, for me, which was coming up, especially when I was reading that chapter, was about how closely this is tied to attachment. uh, like literally, like like the soul, actually, let's say just like a child needs like basic securities to develop the ego, right? Like it needs a caring parent or parents, home, food, like some basic stuff. Attachment is natural and important and necessary for growth, for development of the child. And how Cancer, and I believe like the emotional body here like represents that, which is why like building healthy attachment is going to be so important for everyone. And I feel like Cancer plays a part in that, because that is where a lot of wounds also end up happening, and then the goal becomes to find that feeling of home, feeling of safety, right? Which anyways, I think that was kind of like what I was taking away from a lot of this, was like how important this is, because this is tied to attachment, and that's the core of all of us.
Yes, definitely. And both of us have an interest in attachment theory. That's where we, I think, forayed into our healing journeys. Attachment theory was like the gateway for a lot of people around the world. And Cancer definitely represents this, because security is about being secure enough in yourself when your expectations go unmet, but also to connect with others from a place of sovereignty, which is what healthy interdependence is about. And I think there has been a lot of discourse around how attachment theory may be a little too individualistic, focusing too much on, self security and not enough on community. And that's something I also think about a lot these days, in the sense that evolutionary biologically, like biological evolution of the human nervous system has always been very community oriented. And that's what, as activists, as leftists, what we're trying to get back to, because capitalism has created this hyper individualism, isolation, alienation that is very detrimental to our mental health. So getting back to community is very important. The way I find evolutionary astrology to address this, or it fits in, is that from, if you zoom out really, like few hundred years of capitalism is a blip, right? It's nothing. It's just something, like just another thing for the universe that is experiencing itself through us, to discover how do we get through these adversities. Um, and as Western or individualistic this might sound, building inner security is important, where we are right now, right? Because everyone is traumatized. Nobody is at fault. Everyone is traumatized by the systems that we live in. But before we can form healthy attachment with others, we have to find that centeredness within ourselves. And this has been a difficult thing for me to accept personally, because of my materialist and Marxist background, where I place more, I used to place more important on external factors. The material reality is, you know, influencing or determining my inner state. But evolutionary astrology is idealistic that way, where it flips things around and says, no, our external reality is determined by our inner state. And I'm beginning to see value in that. And that's what Cancer does represent. You have to find some degree of security within yourself before you reach out to others for secure attachment. Otherwise, we just bring in our own unhealed stuff. And instead of co-regulation, it becomes co-dysregulation. So regulation, like a regulated nervous system, is huge for this archetype. And I think that's your area of expertise. Do you want to say something about that?
Oh, thank you for sharing that. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of, and like you mentioned, like, attachment theory came out of a very colonial white, I would say the white-centered, Eurocentric way of uh, connection, which itself was based on disconnection, whether it was from people or land. So this obviously has, and again, it's very like, rooted in cishet patriarchy, patriarchal, very binary standard, which is why, there's this four quadrants. You have this, and queer people, trans people everywhere, especially people of color, are like, hey, this, it's more nuanced, that, which makes a lot of sense, right? Which is why I love this archetype now, the more that I think about it, because especially what you're explaining, uh, a lot of, for me, comes down to the feeling of home, right? And that has been something which has chased me for a long time. People would ask me when I moved to America, what is home for? Like, okay, so where is home? And I would be like, wow, actually, I don't know. Because even right now, I feel like home is back home. And I come back home and I don't feel at home. And it's always, you're always searching for home outside. And I was searching for home outside. And I still am. Like in people, we try and find home in other people, in relationships, in so many other different places, that corner, that nook where you are completely safe, where you're valued, you're understood. Uh, and if at least a journey for me a lot has been through, whether it's like Zen Buddhism or other forms of spirituality, has been to really like figure out that true home is within. And even as we do, and I personally try and move away from the binary of outer and inner. I feel like there's just like our realities are being shaped, our inner reality is being shaped by material and is being shaped, the inner is shaping the outer, and all that stuff. Is like, it's almost like it kind of loses that, for me at least, it loses the distinction so much, because it's, I don't know, for me it's all, it all looks like the same. And the part that I was trying to get into was that with an archetype like Cancer, which is so deeply connected to memory, like you mentioned, like ancestral memory, like really finding our true roots, maybe in that kind of way, true home. I feel that for us to move from where we are right now, deeply traumatized, wounded, and so much in leftist circles that I have witnessed myself, so much within my own personal relationships, so many wounds, for which, yes, we will need the inner work 100%, but even that will be empty, because the point of this will be that we are wired, we are connected. Even when we are disconnected, we're connected. We hate each other, we're angry at each other, we are still connected. Would be to find that kind of like interdependence, like you mentioned, like communal harmony again. And it's kind of like, yes, there will be some work which we'll have to do alone, but it will never be complete alone. Because when you get back in relationship of any kind, whether it's romantic or platonic or community, all those wounds will come back up. The which is what I feel like, this inner home sometimes can become almost like isolation, which is what is very useful, is utilized a lot in, I would say, like white predominant spaces or even new age spaces. And be like, you know what, I'm going to cut myself out, and I found my home. I found my home in Bali. I am traveling to Vietnam. I'm a spiritual healer, and fuck white supremacy. And you know what? That's not my problem. I have found my home. Like, yes, but you missed the entire point, was for us to be together. And as soon as you do that, boom, things are going to start coming up. So it's almost like you cannot find inner security without engaging in the process of relating again and again and again and again with people. I might think I'm very healed right now. I'm getting out of a relationship which has broken my heart completely, right? And I feel great. But as soon as I will get close to people again, as soon as I might get into a relationship, boom, it's going to come up. And that is where the real work of, again, centering your home will start. You know what I mean? It's almost like there's work which we have to be doing on our own, without a doubt. but cannot be done in isolation for the longest time. And I feel like Cancer kind of represents that, because Cancer is always like looking for home within, but also wants to constantly nurture and mother. Like, it's the eternal mother. The mother needs someone to mother, and but the mother will have to be mothered by others and mother herself also. I don't know if that makes sense. That was a long rant, but that's how I'm looking at it. Like,
That makes a lot of sense. And that is also what's beautiful about evolutionary astrology, because it balances the dialectic of self and other, right? Uh, I don't find this sort of balance in other forms of astrology. I don't know if, I mean, it can be a little more individualistic for sure. But that's why we have the self hemisphere and the other hemisphere that we talked about at the start of the episode, and we talk about every time. It is discovery of the soul by itself and in relation to others. And it's not a linear thing. It's not like a soul is always going from Aries to Virgo and then from Libra to Pisces. It's not linear. Souls are jumping from quadrant to quadrant, house to house, over and over again, right? So it is definitely it's like it's happening simultaneously. You do inner work, then you go test it with others, then you are confronted by your own shadows. Then you get maybe take some time off again to do inner work, and that doesn't necessarily always mean having to be single. I don't mean just romantically, but it's important to always be in community, because that's where we really find out how healed we are. I think who was this? Was it Jiddu Krishnamurti who had this quote that if you think you're very healed, go spend time with your family of origin. Then you'll know
absolutely.
you're not that healed.
And I
But
think,
also, yeah, go on.
go
No,
ahead.
I was thinking about when you said about Zen Buddhism, then something else that came up for me recently is that a lot of these spiritual traditions that predate capitalism and colonialism, whether it's the Vedanta, the Upanishads, the Tao Te Ching, Hermetic traditions, at that point, they really had started focusing more on inner work, because none of these traditions, I think, they said that, oh, you absolutely, have to relate to people to know you. They had started going inward. I think humans were evolving nicely up to that point. But then capitalism just like really disrupted everything. And now we like starting from scratch again, get back to community, and then, make the journey back home to the universe.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, I will say, oh, by the way, this is what was coming to my mind. We are also, I think, recording. It was Mother's Day tomorrow or day after. It's one of these few days. Yeah, right. So I just wanted to like also wish Happy Mother's Day to everyone, because I guess Cancer does, one of the archetypes essence is Divine Mother, or just the mother, right? Like, who is constantly mothering others, and that we'll get into the shadow expression. We can get completely tired, but also is so nurturing and mothering, but really needs that nurturing and mothering for herself also, and for others to do that also. So happy Mother's Day to all the mothers, and uh, mothers of all kinds, whether it's biological aunts, nieces, like uh, aunts and uncles who are mothering, and fathers who are mothering, and just friends, caregivers, especially healthcare workers of all kinds, teachers, our mothers are doing so much mothering work. I mean, I feel like there's just so many people, and I'm missing probably a lot. But so on, since Cancer, signifies the mother, happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, absolutely. And also to all the pet caregivers, a lot of people have pets who are their children. And I've gotten very attached to my new jade plant. I feel like it's mother. But yes, also for our listeners who are not from India, do you want to tell them what does your name mean?
Absolutely, yeah. My name means the moon, and so there's multiple things which are coalescing for this episode specifically. Yeah, and this archetype is always, I mean, I am, and it's a Leo moon for me specifically, so it is very, very emotional without a doubt.
Very important archetype for sure. And what, like I said, I think all of evolutionary astrology boils down to this archetype. Like, be secure within yourself first.
No, it's interesting you say that because there is something about, and I think this might be a good segue into Capricorn because when I was reading Ari Moshe's, chapter, he does mention about how this one axis, probably out of all the other axes, signifies the entire human experience, the entire experience of the soul coming into a human experience, almost like this emotional body, and then is now, and we'll move to Capricorn when it is now following law, like it has to be like following the external structure, like right now this is so subjective, and now it will move towards the objective in that kind of sense to be like, oh, okay, what is this word, what am I supposed to do, time is real, I have to get stuff done. And I don't know, do you feel like that's a good segue to move to Capricorn, because we finally move with to Capricorn again, 10th house Saturn, and from Mother's Day this is the segue, because both our mothers are Capricorn suns, and so which is also another synchronicity and interesting thing. So I'm definitely keeping my mother in mind when I am talking about this.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to add that the Capricorn Cancer axis is hugely important for me. I have very strong Capricorn signatures. I have a Capricorn stellium in the fourth house, which is the house of the moon. I have two Cancer planets in the 10th house, which is the house of Capricorn. My moon is in Capricorn, and my Chiron is in Cancer in the 10th house. So it's like a lot of Cancer Capricorn energy for me, fourth house, 10th house. And the recent Aries stellium, this because Aries forms a natural square to both, is really activated. And it continues to do so because Saturn is still in Aries. So it's squaring all of my Capricorn placements, like, squaring all of my Cancer placements. This axis itself is like really important for me, for most of this year and a little bit of next year as well. And yes, when we're talking about, the need to balance the inner security with external security, and this is what Capricorn represents: external security, not necessarily in the form of relationships, but the external world itself. And I want to take a moment to say before we get into this is that Saturn is, uh, in traditional astrology and even in evolutionary astrology, probably the most important planet. Traditionally, of course, because they only use uh, planets up to Saturn, and the archetypes of Pluto, which is like, again, the most important planet in evolutionary astrology, the kind we practice, is attributed to Saturn. So traditionally, of course, but in evolutionary astrology, it's really important because Saturn is considered the default chart ruler of all charts. Yeah, because Saturn provides the walls, the ceiling, the floors of our reality. It conditions every other planet in your chart. So look at where you have Saturn in your chart, what sign, what house, and know that that placement is creating your reality, your external reality. That's how Saturn conditions us. Saturn is in one word, if I have to talk about Saturn, Capricorn, this archetype, it's maturity. It's an extremely mature archetype, which gives this feeling of, like old souls. And I've had people tell that to me throughout my life, that I seem a lot older than what I actually am. Like when I talk or about my views, it's just, it gives very ancient vibes. But yes, Saturn also causes delays. It's both very mature, but also causes delays in maturity, in the sense that as you get older, this archetype begins to manifest more and more. It's not an archetype that is very evident in like young people, if they even when they have strong signatures. And like I used to be like, I think, more obviously Gemini when I was younger. Until my 20s, I think I was like a party animal. But as I'm getting older, especially after Saturn return that happens like after 30, I'm becoming more Capricornian. There's a lot of conscious maturity because Capricorn or Saturn, they're very aware of time and consequences. When you say very law abiding or rule following, it's not because the little fascists in the making. That's what, it's not about obedience. It's just natural uh, awareness that time is passing, things need to be done, doing things have consequences, not doing things have consequences, and you have to make conscious choices. um, it's not you know being compliant or submissive that way, like men are just joining the army and then you know um, doing the devil's work. um, but it is just like awareness that, oh no, um, it is the Newtonian physics to the quantum physics. Reality exists is
Right.
our souls have incarnated in this world. Our brain can only work with 3 dimensions. This is where we exist. Quantum physics is great, but you gotta get things done here, which is why it is the archetype of commitment. It is highly committal. I think the most committed sign of all.
Yeah.
Yeah, because again, it's Saturn is, it's providing, it's conditioning the entire chart. It's providing the ceilings, floors, and walls for entire chart. It is just committed to building things. It doesn't leave things halfway. It's like, okay, there is a goal. It's very visionary. Like there is a goal that we gotta achieve, and you put in the work slowly, steadily, every day, very consistent. It's not gonna leave things midway. And it is about building natural authority. It's about building skills where the moon is so emotional and fluctuating. Capricorn is the opposite, very stable, very reliable, and it builds skills. If I want to achieve something, I gotta build some skills. I quit my job to become an artist, and I don't know if you remember, but I showed you a screenshot of what my schedule looked like. If you leave me alone, I will plan the next 20 years of my life.
Mm.
It never goes according to plan, of course. That's again something to be aware of. But just like, I love spreadsheets. I love organizers. I love planning.
No,
But
that's
it's
actually a
about
very
building.
yeah.
Yeah,
No, I
go on.
think I appreciate that. I mean, sorry. Go ahead. Finish your point.
It's okay. Did you want to say something?
No, I mean, I just wanted to take up on that. Was like this whole and I think I'm gonna put a marker here, but like this whole how Saturn is a malefic and placement, which means there's problems and stuff like that. Is what I think is so important to talk about here is like the context, the social context of what has created these representations, or even the archetype, you would say, right? Because if it's shaped by capitalism and patriarchy, which are not natural law, and I love how Ari Moshe, who's an evolutionary astrologer, explicitly states this, that patriarchy is not natural law. Capitalism is not natural law. It is far from natural law. And if you are going to now be Saturnian in that sense and expect people to follow that authority, follow patriarchal standards and stuff, that is a natural law, and that will have a certain manifestation, which might be the reason why Saturn gets a bad rap, is because it's being looked in that context. But if you're following, but ultimately, what you say, Saturn is here to abide by natural law, which is time, does exist in this kind of sense. There is a limitation for the soul to do certain work in this lifetime. It has a certain amount of time, and it can be acutely aware of that. And so it'll be like, okay, and that is how you will achieve things. Like I'm just literally just thinking, without Saturn, it's going to be hard for anyone to actually achieve things. If you can get impulsive action, then you can do a lot of things, but a lot of work is deep, it's consistent, it's boring, it continues for a long time. It's a repetition. And we talk about this, for example, and I think I'll plug in here, like like Saturn is transiting my 6th house, right? I believe. And this will continue for like a year. And I'm feeling that right now, it's not going to be me learning, something in a month. No, it's bringing me into Tai Chi, Bagua, and Shingi, internal martial arts, which I believe are very Saturnian in that sense, because these are really about building, about slow, tedious, tenuous, daily work. Like literally, when I was doing the punches and I can't feel anything, and the other people were like, "Yeah, you just gotta keep doing it." And I know this is just going to be consistently doing this, but I'll have to do this. It's not going to happen again. My health, my physical health, whether it's getting back into strengthening, is not going to change till I figure out a plan and action and commit to it, which I feel really grateful for, to be honest, because I know that this is what I need. And I know that I'll be able to achieve this following, you know, and what is this ultimately doing? Like this journey which I'm on right now is giving me so much confidence because it's actually helping because it's I'm able to finally like master myself, like like self mastery in that sense. And that self mastery, like you mentioned, self determination, self governance, waking up every morning, my breath work, whether it's qigong and tai chi or other different practices, whatever way they shape or form, they're consistently happening. It's building self determination. And anyways, I feel like the whole you know, popular Saturn is bad. I'm like, what are you talking about? What the hell are we going to do without Saturn? You know what I mean? It makes no sense. And of course, I get it. We'll get into the shadow expressions, but Capricorn in this sense, and I think this axis of Cancer, emotional security, finding home, doing shit with that, that's powerful. Like, like actually like changing things inside and outside in the world, that's powerful.
Yeah, I have Saturn in Capricorn, by the way. So Saturn itself rules my entire Capricorn stellium, including my moon in Capricorn. So like emotionally, I'm very Capricornian. Um, and the malefic thing again, like you said, is contextual because Saturn brings karmic consequences, and people have not been following natural law; they've been following artificial standards. It is the archetype of external achievements, but that should be skill based, that you build slowly over time, like you're building these skills in health right now, slowly over time. That is what Saturn demands, to slow down and like get your foundations right. And that's not fun. And when you don't do that, Saturn brings karmic consequences. That is why people have this negative, connotation when it comes to Saturn, because they got to face the consequences of what did they skip? Were they not in integrity? This is the archetype of integrity itself, which is why people prefer Jupiter, because Jupiter is a great benefit. It brings blessings, but it's very short lived. Jupiter transits are shorter. Its blessings are shorter lived. Saturn is, like I said, your entire chart is ruled by Saturn. And if we are not in integrity, if we are, following artificial standards, artificial law, all of that will come back to us. Have you been ruthlessly ambitious? You're going to climb the mountain and then feel empty because you have not integrated the Cancer polarity. Have you been chasing money and status instead of skills and the natural success that can follow from skill building? Um, if you've been like chasing just money and status, it's not going to last for too long, and then you're going to have to face consequences, and that will come in the form of Saturn transits, and then they'll give Saturn a bad name. Right.
No, thank you. I absolutely. I mean, thank you for that because I think that's kind of what I was trying to express was also that this is even astrology in the last 100 years has been shaped by these unnatural laws of governance of humans, which is based on oppression and patriarchy and capitalism, which are like, okay, of course you're gonna fucking hate Saturn. Of course, Saturn here is talking about skill building, and I don't know what skill building right now will be. Skill building is going to be so necessary for survival in as the empire crumbles, and we will have to like fend for each other and care for each other. Like at this point, I feel like Saturn just and Capricorn, like this archetype just becomes like extremely powerful because what it's actually asking is slowing down. And personally, like the rush of capitalism has been let's go, 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 let's chase, like toxic positivity, abundance, which in almost 100% cases, especially in the new age circles, just means money. Pure. It's pure cash money. That's it. People are not talking about abundance, which is felt connection with the universe, which will just expand you completely, or community. And like, some of the richest people I've seen are just connected with people, just sitting there and just talking and just laughing under the sun, eating fresh fruit will never count as abundance, right? It will be a big, big bank balance because that is what has, because it's because the definition of abundance and the feeling of that has been shaped by capitalism. And so, of course, I feel like Saturn is going to be hit on, and I'm personally like really liking Saturn. I'm like, okay, I'm here for it. You know what I mean? I'm here for building this within myself and outside.
Yeah, I love Capricorn energy, to be honest, because it's so reliable. And like most of my closest friends are Capricorn moons like me, or if not, they're Sagittarius moons, and my composite moon with them becomes Capricorn because I'm a very late degree Capricorn moon. So I have the same friends who've been like my closest friends for 10 years, 15 years. Um, and like we don't drift apart. Even if we don't talk every day, it just feels the same. Like the commitment to each other is the same. We have this natural sense of, we feel at home with each other because emotionally we're the same, right? So I just feel really comfortable with like Capricorn energy.
And I think that might be a good segue to quickly like plug in about. Well, my experience with Capricorn started from a very young age because my mother was Capricorn, and I just like is Capricorn or again, I don't remember her chart completely, but I know it's a very strong placement for her because of the expression that it has had. And I have seen her build things, take care of things, be literally saying to me the words that, I don't have a lot of time, Chand, and I want to do something with it. And so I'm going to experience life. I'm going to learn things even at this age when she's, in her mid 60s. She is learning new things. She's literally doing a new course, starting a new business. She's writing. She started working on her health. Like it is a very like let me get shit done kind of mindset, and that is who was my teacher when I was young, brutally sometimes was, and I feel like definitely leaning into her shadow expression at times of being kind of an authoritarian, really sticking to time with certain things, but I saw like how this manifested in, and again shadow expression came out, but just this maturity was something that I personally definitely needed as a child. I mean, I don't think she knew, but I definitely did ADHD, right? I was scattered, and giving me that structure really helped me like learn skills which were like ridiculously important to in my life. Like it set me up for like a lot of success academically and in many different ways. So yeah, had a very Capricorn mother who gets shit done. Like period. She will run stuff. Has run her own business for like decades. Like just making sure she's getting stuff done. And it's very important for her sense of being. And I remember me being, oh no, you shouldn't work so much. I don't know. This is her natural expression. Like this, she needs to be doing this. She needs to be out there, outward facing in that sense. So yeah, thank you, mom.
Yeah, your mom also has a Capricorn stellium in the fourth house. I remember your mom's chart.
Okay, wow. So
Yeah.
you remember? I do not remember her chart. So if she has a Capricorn stellium in her fourth house, then that makes a lot of sense. Now that I like think about her, I'm like, yeah, she is definitely there because for her, it's also home, right? Like it's home. Like she is right now taking care of my grandmother, and this is what she's doing, and it is her Capricorn stuff which is keeping things on track. My grandmother, touch wood, mashallah, she is, has a lot of dementia, but she's doing great because my mom has dedicated time, energy, her authority, and discipline. In discipline on Nani's schedule is like top notch. I mean, like you saw, right? Like how she is being taken care of, right? Like how well the her food at this time, her walks at this time. Caregiver has a written schedule which is very detailed. This is very Capricorn, and that is keeping an elderly mother very happy out of a nursing home where she would decline immediately, like without a doubt. And I see this all the time, like in an aging home, nursing home, boom, it's gone. This would not happen, right? She's getting fed. She has a schedule for walks, a schedule for music, a schedule for TV, a schedule for games. This is keeping somebody thriving. in through a very like severe uh, condition like Alzheimer's.
Yeah, I remember. And, your mom has a son, if I'm not mistaken, also Venus and either Mercury or Mars, and they're all tightly conjunct in Capricorn. Your mom has the perfect Libra rising chart, by the way, but I'll tell you about that later.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
But I mean, I guess since we're going a lot on this, maybe we should move to the shadow expressions. What do you think? And I guess we can start with the shadow expression of Capricorn because we're just starting there. And I think that's the issue because so much of shit needs to be done. There is very less time. And if things are not done, then things can fall apart, can lead to authoritarianism. And in fact, like, uh, I think Capricorn stelliums will recognize that sometimes that you need to get stuff done. But the other issue here is also, and I love all of these because these are so important, is this harsh self judgment because these are Capricorn signatures are about being responsible. If you look at my mom from a very young age, she had to take responsibility, hyper responsibilities. Yeah. And if she is not being responsible, there's just going to be very significant self judgment and shame around that to be like, oh my God. To the point then that she, people, and I shouldn't say she in general, might not even communicate. Hey, I couldn't get this done because I'm feeling shitty about myself. So I'm not going to communicate this. But this is what happened. This is how I'm feeling. This leads to emotional repression. And it's coming from this, you know, this pressure to do within a certain time frame to achieve. You can get, and under capitalism, this can go so wrong so fast. But definitely this makes sense is like repressing the emotional, you know, heart, repressing your emotional body, because if you're too much into that, then you won't be able to step down. So you can just swing to the other end of the spectrum and completely repress it, which, again, from what I've read, again, depression or whatever, we call these things can happen to anyone and everyone in multiple different placements, but can definitely be emotional repression can create a lot of problems for Capricorns. And I don't know, one of them might manifest as depression, might manifest at other things, because what it's actually asking is to, and our emotion also writes about this, which I appreciate, is to actually, hey, feel your heart, see what's happening, what are you holding in. But yeah, let me know what you think.
yeah, authoritarianism. That was an experience for me because I've always been leftist. Like I did not need any convincing to become a communist. I read Marx. I'm like, yeah, this is me. I'm a communist now. And so, I always have been in support of, sovereignty for people. I mean, when I say Marxist, I've also like really appreciate and try to practice anarchism. So at this point in my life, a few years ago, I used to think, yeah, I'm an anarchist, I'm an abolitionist, I don't do vertical structures. Um, I was there. And then Pluto was in Capricorn and it conjuncted my moon in Capricorn. And I didn't know I'm a little dictator. I turned very authoritarian. That was not in line with any of my beliefs that I thought I was. And that's the thing about shadow work. We are all capable of everything. Like different points in time, these really repressed parts of us come out. When the right insecurity hits, they will come out. Um, and that was my initiation. That time in my life, I did not recognize myself. I'm like, who am I becoming? Um, and it was very confusing because that was just one part of me, not all part of me, because I'm still very Pisces with others. I'm a Virgo rising, so with others, I'm actually very Pisces. Like I tend to be too giving, too unbounded, and a little extra compassion. But that was not me at that time. Just like Carl Jung says this with astrology and transits, you can extract time from character and character from time. So transits do bring out these parts of us that are not necessarily permanent. We turn into a certain character for a certain time, or you can extract time from characters. Like we are evolving, and different times can be extracted from our life's journey to represent different parts of us. So yeah, I became very authoritarian. And I have since, like, it's a vow to myself that I'll never control anyone again. It doesn't matter. It's a, learning that if my needs are not met, I need to move, I need to leave and not control the other person. So that was my experience with authoritarianism. Emotional repression. It is, like I said, it is so strange for me because my Capricorn stellium is in the fourth house, moon is in Capricorn. So at times I'm integrating both the polarities. But if there's any imbalance, I lean into more Capricorn than Cancer. Like, I'll always be nurturing with others, but I don't always give myself that much care. And that's what I'm trying to learn now. So emotional depression definitely happens. Thankfully, I don't think I've ever chased artificial authority, but I do see that with Capricorn placements. I have a family member with Capricorn in the 10th house, and there's a lot of weightage in their life when it comes to external achievements, status, money, all of that. And that's a deconditioning that Saturn will cause naturally over time. And yeah, when harsh self judgment, because even Saturn transits, like, you may be feeling sometimes like, oh, why is your health not as perfect as it should be, right? That's harsh self judgment comes up at that time because there's a goal that we're trying to achieve and it is slow. So that happens. But yeah, not fun shadows.
Yeah, definitely not fun shadows, because I'm also looking at like even the Cancer shadow expression of the other end here now, like being so swimming in the emotions have completely taken over. Uh, where there's like volatility for sure, but also manipulation at times, right? Or can lean towards that, and the attachment kind of like anxious slash avoidant, like just which I just consider these to be like the emotions have kind of taken over in a way, really haven't been able to. Uh, we went from again one extreme to the other extreme rather than a balanced emotional regulation. And I like how you said, like, completely externalize security. And I feel it can also sometimes, and again, our emotion was talking about this, sometimes it can also lead to this thing where people just isolate themselves completely because they're like, oh, okay, you know what, I'm going to externalize, or I'm just going to isolate myself. But I guess the point here being like, from what I understand, like Cancer, the shadow expression can be just emotional overwhelm, I guess, in that sense.
Yeah, so externalized security looks like, I mean, that's also what happened to me while I was becoming authoritarian with Pluto in Capricorn, conjuncting my moon in Capricorn. It was also bringing out my moon shadows, the Cancer shadows. And I experienced this, like, my security. Like, when I say externalized security, what it means is that your inner peace is first your responsibility. You cannot hand that to another person. It's not like they're necessarily always doing something wrong, because people actually, how they behave is about themselves. No one is thinking like, oh, today I'm going to wake up and manipulate this person. Okay, those people exist, like those kind of people exist, of course, but that's not most people, especially in relationships. Like, when we trigger, it's just the other person being themselves,
Yep.
and that your rhythms are crashing, and now you need them to behave in certain ways to feel secure in your body. So that is what externalized security here means, that you need to control others so that they behave in ways that feel right to you, which may not even be the right standard, because so many of our standards about behaviors and um, how to be in society is again conditioned by patriarchy, conditioned by capitalism. So those are not even natural standards half the time. So that's externalized security. In inner security, it looks like, okay, when your needs are not being met, it's hard. It triggers us, but can we pause? Can we breathe? And can we communicate from that place instead of projecting, our issues onto the other person? And the emotional manipulation of Cancer is, like, there's a lot. There can be guilting, guilt tripping others, mm, becoming very volatile, um, there can be like uncontrolled rage. Emotions are controlling you instead of you experiencing them, instead of just sitting with them and letting them move through the body. um, they're controlling you. You cannot disidentify. Each emotion feels like it's permanent, it's a permanent state of being, but it's not. It's over identification with that state of feeling at that point, disconnection with sensation in our body, just the basic, like these things were not taught formally, of course, in indigenous societies, but they have this better understanding of how to move through emotions, through rituals, through movement, through community. All of that has been lost under capitalism and colonialism, and that emotional volatility is a huge problem. We were talking about the attachment system, right? Like this is the cancer extremes to become extremely anxious, where your sense of security is so externalized that you really want to control the other person to feel safe, or you become too avoidant where you're completely disconnected from your needs and hence you isolate. I have another friend who has pretty much the same chart as myself. Again, Capricorn stellium in the fourth house, completely isolating, very, very avoidant, very emotionally repressed. Um, so yeah, these are the shadows, and the work is to find that grounded center in between, where we feel emotions, but don't over identify with them.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, I agree. I mean, I think this is something which was also coming to me, and I think, like, just for our audience, for everyone to understand, there is obviously situations in which people are not going to be safe and secure based on someone else's feelings, right? Like, and these are all a lot of these shadows are shaped by that also. Like, there is violence, right? Like, somebody wants to keep their partner, somebody needs their partner to be, a woman might want her husband, abusive husband, to be in a happy mood, because if he gets upset he will actually, like, assault her. And how this might have happened in her ancestry, this might be happening to her, but even if it's not happening to her, it is definitely shaping it is shaping that person's uh, you know trauma profile, her reactions, and all that kind of stuff. And I guess obviously this is not talking about places where people are unsafe, even that natural law has been broken, and but there are many spaces where that is not the case. And when that wound has actually happened, the pattern will repeat in places where somebody is actually going to be safe, right? This might now happen with a friend, or might happen in a future relationship of that person, where they are not unsafe per se, but the body will feel like, oh shit, something's gonna happen. Which is where I feel like the power of Cancer on the archetype can be to now find that home and that safety and security within, to heal that past wound, to heal that trauma, and to now move from a place of regulation rather than reaction. I think that's what we are trying to convey, not to, like, say that, please. A lot of what people's behaviors are shaped by the conditions. Like, yeah, sure, you're gonna have to be disembodied to that, so that you're safe in this environment and you can't leave. It's not easy for people to leave abusive relationship, like babies, like, so it gets complicated. But we're talking about conditions where safety is assured in some way.
Yeah,
Physical
what
safety.
we're talking about is when, like, um, in, differentiating between the presence of real danger and perceived or imagined
Yeah.
danger. There are situations where there is real danger, our nervous system needs to fire up, get into one of the four modes of responding to actual danger, versus when there isn't and it's just projection. And that is typically what happens in most relationships. Um, of course, there's a lot of active abuse, because that's also, everyone has Pluto somewhere in their chart, and that's where they're going to get into power struggles. Either you'll be the one dominating others or getting dominated, because the soul is learning about power. But a lot of times it's not actual actual danger. It's just like we are imagining that the person's going to hurt us, when I say just being themselves.
No, absolutely. I think the definitely the point here is that there is our bodies, our cells, our literally our genetics will respond to just perceived danger significantly. And this is like, there's great studies on this, and I've spoken about this on my TikTok and stuff, how that just, like, starts a cascade of inflammatory mediators being produced immediately, like genetic transcription being activated, boom, like hundreds, in fact even thousands of inflammatory mediators just from perceived danger. So there's, like, so much value in this inner work, however we might think it's individualistic, is still going to be really important. uh, Okay, I know we're almost at an hour, so I really want us to move towards the dialectics. Shik, I know you were looking at that, but again, as you know, Marxists, we are going to use the language of dialectics because I love the concept of the balance, the interplay, the constant engagement between inner security and external achievement, and you know, how one is related to the other. You find inner security, it will really help you achieve externally, which is going to be important for you to find inner security back and forth. And same thing between, nurturance and authority, right? Uh, about how taking care of people is so important. But if you just let a kid do whatever they want to do, that doesn't even classify as love. Sometimes they will sometimes need to be told, hey, you can do this and you cannot do this. Please don't eat pesticide. Like if you right, like I don't know, you know what I mean, like it's this balance. And I think you finally, and maybe you can talk about the last 2 points.
Yeah, they're very self-explanatory. Both are important to sit with our feelings and also to get shit done. You have to get up and get things done, even when you're feeling depressed, when you're feeling angry, when you're feeling sad, and that's just reality. That's Capricorn. But this balance between like t- take time out to feel your emotions, but also there's a need for discipline in life. Otherwise, we won't be getting anything done. And like I said, over identification with emotions is the problem, not that emotions themselves are the problem. Just let them pass through your body. Just get in touch with the sensation. And that's where I think somatics is so important. And that's why I think this episode is longer than usual, because when it comes to emotions, when it comes to the body, it's like these are really important topics for us. And, you know, in the kind of work that we're involved in. So this is very self-explanatory. I think we dove deep into both the archetypes. So how they balance each other, I think has come out really well.
No, yeah, absolutely, thanks. And yeah, as you said, the slide is pretty self-explanatory, right? Like through times of emotional turbulence is when discipline becomes more important sometimes, right? Like I know this even for me personally. I was like, okay, this is a lot, but I have to get out into the sun and I have to do my qigong right now, even if it's just for a few minutes, and that helps to balance that volatility and move things around. So, anyways, I think we are definitely. This was a great episode. Personally, I really the more that I read about Cancer Capricorn, because it started like really like bringing out to me like how important this axis actually is, and how this is the after Aries and Libra, this is the second axis of the cardinal points. So I don't have anything else. Is there anything else you want to say before we close out?
No, that's pretty much it. I really loved this conversation because I love Capricorn. Uh, but yeah, it's a cardinal cross, and it's not just that Cancer and Capricorn balance each other. Aries and Libra balance each other, but all four together also balance each other. And now that we've completed one quadrant, moving into the other, we've completed all cardinal signs at this point, and um, is Aries and Cancer balance each other. Aries and Cancer balance each other, or Aries and Capricorn, sorry. Libra and Capricorn, Libra and Cancer, they all balance each other. I think that can be a different series where we just talk about how the modalities, the different signs and the modalities, they balance each other. Because right now we're only doing polarities, but the squares, natural square between Capricorn and Aries, Aries and Cancer, Cancer, Libra, Libra, Capricorn, they also balance each other.
Oh yeah, that's actually really cool. Yeah, that's actually good for that's a good discussion. And next time we're going to be doing another really favorite of mine, which is going to be Leo and uh, Aquarius. So we're moving into the fifth house, and then we have two more, and then we're going to be done with the pairs, and we'll get into other stuff. All right, people. Thank you,
We
Shika.
can close with wishing our Capricorn moms happy Mother's Day.
Yes, happy Mother's
Moon
Day.
and Capricorn.
Yes, yes. Happy Mother's Day, mom, and to your mom, and to all the mothers everywhere. Okie dokie. Take care. Bye.